starting out with wave oven recipes. In the NuWave Primo Grill Oven, I've done a test before of the temperature using a temperature probe that was kind of in the middle of the cooker to kind of give the ambient air right kind of in the middle height of the cooker. But I wanted to see what the temperature is at the actual grill plate level, right on that grate. How hot does that get when you're cooking food? If I had something checking temperature like just above it, like just over it, how hot is it cooking food at that level during a cook? I'm going to do a test of that, and we're going to see how hot that grill plate gets during a regular cook, or likely gets during a regular cook right now. Alright, so what I have here, I have my iGrill tool to measure temperature with the Ambient Probe right here on the grill plate, so it's right over that to give the temperature of things right over that grill plate. You know, it's just, you know, not even maybe an inch or less over that grill plate. So it's going to tell us the temperature right there during this ambient heat test. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to basically turn it on, and I'm going to turn the temperature up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to leave top and bottom at 50-50, and we're going to do a preheat here to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the preheat button, and going to go ahead and hit start, and we'll let this preheat to the 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and we'll see where this ambient probe gets to. Alright, so it preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Our ambient probe just over the grill plate is showing 370. So even with it down lower, we're still reading about the same as we read when we had it in the center doing our previous testing in the extensive review. So I think we learned from that extensive review, even if you run this thing longer, you're not going to get a whole lot hotter, even letting it run much beyond the preheat. So we're going to basically consider that, you know, when this preheats to the 370, to the 400, it's going to be about 370, you know, in the cooker, even at the bottom level. So maybe they have the ambient probe that's measuring temperature, more than likely somewhere in the power head, that hot air is rising, and so it's reading 400 because their ambient probe is somewhere in the power head. Alright, so now I want to do another test. I'm going to put the power head back on here with the dome. And what I want to test this time, I'm going to turn my iGrill 2 on so that I get the ambient temperature. What I'm going to test this time, I want to test how hot things get on the grill plate if I'm heating with as much heat as possible from the bottom. So I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to up the temperature to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to hit the top bottom button, and I'm going to put as much as I can on the bottom. The most I can put on the bottom is 70%, 30% on top. That's as far as I can go with heat source being the bottom. And so going to hit the preheat and hit the start button. So we'll let this preheat now to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and assuming that their ambient probe is somewhere up here in the power head, we'll see how hot things get on this grill plate, since most of the heat is coming from the grill plate this time. Alright, so we've reached the end of the preheat. The iGrill is reading like 385 or so. So it's basically still going, but we know, you know, if we let this keep going, it'll probably stay around this, you know, maybe a little hotter is, you know, usually the experience if you let this keep going. So we still are not at 400 degrees Fahrenheit on that grill plate, but it gets pretty hot. And we know it does do some good searing, so, you know, I can only assume that the whole matter of the convection, conduction, and all that good stuff, it's interesting how this temperature is kind of, looks like it's carrying over, going up. I'm going to just hit the start. I'm just going to let it run for, you know, maybe another 5 minutes. Alright, 10 minutes have passed. We see the cooker is basically regulating the temp, so you're going to stay right around in that 380 type of range, even if you let it cook for a while and you got most of your heat coming from the bottom. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to turn it off. I'm going to turn it back on. And I'm just going to hit the Sear 1 real quick, and I'm just going to leave it 50-50 because we see how things are going even when we adjust things a little bit. But I'm going to just hit start now, and I'm going to let this Sear run for its 5-minute go. And that's, 425 degrees for 5 minutes, 50-50. Alright, as we come into the last 30 seconds of the Sear, we see the temperature went well over 400 degrees by some. Not to 425 at the grill plate, but well over 400. Now, when it finishes the Sear, it's just going to go into a regular, like 360 degree cooker. So we basically know when you're searing, you are getting a hotter temperature, but things are, not really touching the target temperature, probably because that ambient sensor is probably somewhere up in the power head where the heat is rising up to. So we'll just turn things off there. Alright, so next item of interest, let's do another test here where we've got the Ambient Probe still on the bottom grill plate. And I'm going to put the power dome on. And this time we're going to come with the heat only from the top. So doing 100% heat from the top down. Will that grill plate still be like in the 300 degree range when things reach 400 if that Ambient Probe is up top? So let's get this thing running and see what happens. Turn it on. I'm going to go up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Then I'm going to hit the top bottom, and I'm going to go 100 at the top. So basically it shows an FP at the top for full power at the top, 0 on the bottom. And let's just see what happens. Going to hit start. And we'll let that run, and I'll bring you on back. Actually, I forgot to do a preheat though. Hold on. Let me start that over. I didn't do that right. 400. And then we're going to do the top bottom again up to the maximum. And then we're going to hit the preheat button because we want to preheat using that full power so that we know when the cooker feels that it's at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And we'll see where the Ambient Probe is. It's got a slight head start of some few degrees, but we'll let it run with that. We're going to hit start, and let's see how long this takes and see what temperature things are at once we get there. Alright, so it has preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. It seems to have taken maybe about 8 minutes. This might have been the longest preheat of all, heating just from the top. But our reading at the grill plate is around 375. So it's about comparable to where it is when you're heating with other configurations of heat. It might be a little hotter on the bottom when you're heating with more from the bottom, but not by much. It's pretty comparable no matter how you configure how hot that grill plate's going to get. But it is interesting how long it took to cook or heat from the top down to get things up to what it feels is 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So we'll turn things off with that. Alright, so for this round of testing, I've got my iGrill 2 Ambient Probe hooked up, and I've got it connected to the top heating element here so we can start measuring how hot things get up top instead of down on the grill plate. So going to get the power dome on, just making sure my wires are clear there, and going to get things turned on. Now that things are on, I'm going to set the temperature to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So we've got a temp at 400 degrees, we've got 50-50. We've got our iGrill 2 Ambient Probe at the top heating element to see how hot things are at the top as we get this thing cooking. We're going to hit the preheat, and we're going to hit start, and I'll bring you on back when this preheat is complete. Alright, the preheat has finished and the top is reading 374. This means, although I thought that the Ambient Probe in the NuWave Primo was at the top, maybe they're doing something, I don't know where they have the Ambient Probe at, but it seems like no matter how you slice it, you still get this something 370 under 380 or around 380 range all over the cooker, all over it. So that's pretty interesting to me. So now what I want to try, I'm going to turn things off, turn it on, and I'm going to put it on the Sear. And we're going to see how things do with the Sear. Let it run for that Sear for 5 minutes. So we'll come back and we'll see how things are, how hot it all is after a 425 Sear at 50-50. And this is checking the top heat. We got it on the top now instead of the bottom. Alright, we're coming down into the final seconds using the Sear and having the Ambient Probe at the top, and we are just at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So that means during a regular Sear, the bottom grill plate is getting hotter than the top part of things. That grill plate is a heavier metal, and so it's, I think it may be cast iron. It feels like iron to me, I'm not certain, but it feels like it's iron, and so it holds the heat really well. So basically it's finished with the cook now. Well, it's finished with the Sear now. And so I'm just going to turn things basically off, and I'm going to turn it back on. And what I want to try now, since we saw things a little cooler on the top side, I'm going to hit that Sear again, but this time I'm going to play with the heating element control. I'm going to come at full power from the top 425 down on the Sear, because you can adjust your heating elements on your searing. So we're going to hit start, and we're going to see how hot the top gets, giving a full power sear from the top down, since it was a little cooler than things are on the bottom. Alright, we're coming into the final seconds of the Sear, where we've got full power on the top, and this is the highest temperature we've been able to achieve yet. We're up, it's been fluctuating up into the 430 degree range using the high power, well, the full power from the top. So we'll just go ahead and stop this there. Alright, so I've just moved the Ambient Probe back to the bottom for one final test. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to preheat things to 400, then I'm going to throw the Sear on a high blast from the bottom. You can only do 70% from the bottom, but basically going to crank it up to 400 and going to turn the heating element top bottom. I'm going to basically get as much as I can on the bottom heat and do a preheat and do a start. So we'll let it preheat, and we know, it's probably going to get somewhere in that 370, 380 range. After it's done preheating, I'm going to throw on the Sear from the bottom at a 70% from the bottom. I didn't let things totally cool down. I just basically, from the other heating, just went ahead and moved it very carefully with some tongs and such. But figure we've already seen how long it takes for things to preheat like this, so we don't need to wait for it to have gotten totally cool before starting this preheat. Alright, it's done with the preheat. So, it's reading like 370 or so. Turn it off, turn it on. Gonna hit the Sear, gonna hit my top bottom, gonna give as much as I can to the bottom. My light has expired, but we hit start here. So now we've got our bottom heat at 70%, our top at 30%, and we're gonna see how hot things get with this Sear going. Alright, we're coming into the final seconds of the Sear with as much heat from the bottom as we could get. We've only reached 404 degrees, which means that the top beats the bottom as far as which one gets hotter. And so basically, we've tested many different ways and seen the results of many different things, but the top gets hotter than the bottom when the top can give that full 100% and that's probably why it can get hotter than the bottom, because the top can give a full 100%. The bottom can only come at a max of 70, and we're just a little over 400 degrees. When we've done, searing where we had 50-50, we saw even hotter than this. We saw hotter than this with 50-50, and if you do searing completely from the top, and I guess if you have your stuff raised up near where that top heating element is, since it can get even hotter than the bottom with a 100%, you could probably put a good sear from the top side down. But this grill plate is going to give you those real nice grill marks that you want. So I definitely will still be searing on the bottom myself. Alright, so we've tested searing, we've tested heating at high heat, we've tested the temperature a lot of different ways, and it seems like, the sear goes up higher, of course, but things never really, other than the heat from the top down 100%, the heat never really seems to hit the quoted temperature on the cooker. But all the same, this cooker cooks things faster in a lot of cases even than something like the Cuisinart digital air fryer toaster oven that we've seen top out way over its quoted temperature. So this cooker, I think it's that combination of infrared, convection, conduction. It's able to do some real good work cooking, even though you don't see the temperature that might be quoted exactly. It's still able to, because of its cooking technology and its design, it's still able to cook stuff really fast, and faster than a lot of other cookers. It's still able to just do a great job through its technology. So it's a reliable cooker for what it does. It's reliable in what it does in cooking speed and being able to get things really done from frozen or fresh and searing. It does it all, and it does it all pretty good. So I definitely like this cooker. I definitely am enjoying using it. I definitely want to hear your thoughts about it. You can find lots of recipes for all types of different cookers at superwaveovenrecipes.com. Ever want to come to this YouTube channel, just go to waveovenrecipes.com. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at waveovenrecipes. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Share the video with a friend. Subscriptions are still free, so subscribe and hit the notification bell, and good eating.